Hello everyone! Welcome to the live with Miss Polite. Today we will be talking about a very important topic for all of us. You know that here we are dealing with various topics, but today's topic is strong. Oof, very strong. And it's serious, people. So I ask you, please be attentive to what we will talk about. We now welcome to our guest for today, Miss Krisly de la
Hello, everyone. Hello, Andrea. I thank you for inviting me to your show.
No. I thank you for accepting my invitation. So, as I said before, the topic that I will deal with you is considerable. So, the question is what have government done to stop the proliferation of nuclear weapons? But first, I want you, Krisly, to introduce yourself and tell the audience who you are, please.
Sure. Well, my name is Krisly de la Medina. I'm Colombian. I am an attorney from the University of Massachusetts, specializing in judicial law and with a diploma in ballistics. I've been a member of the International Committee of the Red Cross since 2017, and I've worked in many foundations that help people who are victims of attacks in war.
Wow, you're amazing. But I want to ask you something. Why have you worked on these causes? What has motivated you to be in such complex places where death is practically by your side?
I've worked on these causes because my grandfather was a victim of the atomic bombs that fell on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. He lived with his wife in Hiroshima for 12 years.
But the woman you speak of is not your grandmother.
No. My grandparents separated a year after having my mother. Sometime later, he decided to go to Japan and lived his last years with that Japanese woman.
Oh, it is terrible what you have shared with us so far. So now I want to know what governments have done to stop the proliferation of nuclear weapons.
You know, precisely today is September 26th, and today is the International Day for the Total Elimination of Nuclear Weapons. The government has taken multiple alternatives to eliminate from countries, especially those that constantly live in conflict. It is necessary to highlight that nuclear weapons pose a particularly destructive threat, and prevention of the proliferation and use of nuclear weapons is urgently important to public health. The Red Cross Committee calls on all states, world leaders, and citizens to act on the growing risk of the use of nuclear weapons. The use of nuclear weapons would cause a catastrophic and irreparable humanitarian disaster, whether they were used in a specific region or among major powers.
That's right. If a nuclear conflict were to take place today, there is no international plan or capacity to respond adequately, even in the face of limit use of nuclear weapons.
I agree with you. Therefore, the only sensible course of action is prevention. We urge that urgent efforts be made to ensure that nuclear weapons are never used again. To prevent a global nuclear catastrophe, urgent action by all states is required. Nuclear weapon states such as the United States, the Russian Federation, the United Kingdom and Northern Ireland, France and China and other allies must adopt urgent measures aimed at reducing and ultimately eliminating the use of nuclear weapons. All other members of the international community have a stake in ensuring that they comply. States which belong to the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons must use the 2020 Review Conference and its preparatory committee in April 2018 in Geneva to change course away from the threats of employment and modernization nuclear arsenals and move toward the full fulfillment of the commitments assumed in 2010 and previously aimed at reducing nuclear weapons, reducing risks, as well as other effective measures in the field of nuclear disarmament.
I know the Secretary General of the United Nations recently alerted the Security Council that the Cold War has returned, but with a difference. The mechanisms and safeguards to manage the risk of escalation that exist in the past no longer seem to be in the places.
Yes, and to be clear, the ICRC understands that all states, and in particular those involved in conflicts with volatile parts of the world, face complex security problems, including risks to their security and that of their allies. Regional conflicts are now intertwined with global rivalries. We also recognize that in the past 2 decades, significant steps have been taken to reduce the number of nuclear weapons from Cold War levels. However, reductions don't decrease the risk of their use in light of the above facts and dangers. Consequently, concerted actions to reduce nuclear risks are urgently needed, such as the unequivocal commitment to never use nuclear weapons first, the elimination of nuclear weapons in a state of instant alert, prior notification of military exercises that may involve the launch of missiles or other systems related to nuclear weapons, the reestablishment of joint early warning centers to clarify in real time unexpected and potentially destabilizing events, and measures to progressively reduce the role of nuclear weapons in security policies. I brought you a very special message from the International Committee of the Red Cross for all of you. So, production, could you please play the video?
In the first second, the white light is blinding, the heat immense. In the first day, fires consume the city and there's no way to fight them. Your skin is badly charred. In the first week, those hospitals that are still functioning are overwhelmed and can't treat the injured. Others who seem fine suddenly fall ill and die from radiation sickness. In the first year, radiation has seeped into the water and the soil. Crops and animals are contaminated. In 10 years, congratulations. You might not have leukemia or another cancer, but many of your friends do. You fear it will come any day. In 30 years, you look at your children wondering if you've passed on the effects of radiation. In 70 years, you're still seeing your doctor for checkups. He says it's a miracle you're still alive. The humanitarian consequences of nuclear weapons are horrific and span generations. It's time to ban them now.
Krisly, I thank you again because the information you have given us today is extremely important. In addition to being September 26th, the day on which the elimination of nuclear weapons is celebrated. We are in a vulnerable society where we don't know what could happen to us coming soon. It is necessary to be aware of the events that happened internationally. Well, we come to the end of the program. Have a nice day and don't forget, be polite, be careful, educate yourself as much as you can, and see you next week.